This is not ESPN's 30 for 30. However, it is my 98 for 98. The 98 seasons in history of the New York Football Giants. I'm going to try to get it done in 98 days. Probably not going to get it done in 98 days. Probably going to get it done, though, hopefully before the beginning of the new season, which starts on September 10th against the Dallas Cowboys. We're well on our way. We're halfway into the 70s. Another one of the wilderness years for the New York Football Giants. The 1975 season, which just happened to be the 51st season in the history of the New York Giants. And had a couple changes. They had for 1 year, they changed it. They call it like the disco. I think it was the let me see. I got did they call it the disco? Helmet and style, white and blue, uppercase. Well, it was called an uppercase NY on the side of their helmet for 1 year. It's also called like a disco version or so, because they used to have the little NY. From 1961 to 1974, the Giants had the lowercase NY, which they do today. Right? That was from 61 to 74. 1975, they went to an uppercase NY for 1 year. 1976, when they had their own stadium, Giants Stadium built, and the Giants actually moved into their own home stadium. More in just a minute. That's when they went to Giants, said the words Giants on the side. But in 1975, they came up for some reason with some funky uppercase NY. I also heard it called the disco version, I guess, of the NY for one season. So if you ever see an uppercase NY on the side of the Giants helmet, you know it's 1975. It can be no other season. Also, once again, they're still Wanderers. They shared Shea Stadium with the New York Jets for the 1975 season. 1925 to 1955, Giants were in the Polo Grounds. 1956 to the first two games of 73, they were in Yankee Stadium. After the second game of the 73 season, the rest of the 73 season, all 74 season, they were at the Yale Bowl. 1975, they're in Chase Stadium. In 1976, they had their own stadium. Giant Stadium opened up. But so they were still wandering around, a team without a home, pretty much. What I remember listening to in 1975 when the Giants started playing in Shea Stadium, there was only 12 players on the team that actually had played in New York as a home field. 31 of the players, in 1975, this was their first time ever actually playing a home game in New York. That much of a turnaround, meaning that there were only 12 players from the 73 roster who were still there, who were still on the team starting in 1975, because 1973, the first couple of games were played at Yankee Stadium in New York. Here it is 2 years later, they're still playing, once again, they come back to New York, but only 12 of the guys that were on the roster in the beginning of 1973 were still on the roster in 1975. They had a nice turnaround. Well, because Bill Arnsparger took over in 1974, and he started, as always, he wants his guys. If I'm sinking or swimming with this ship, it's my guys. It's not your guys. And a lot of it also is because, for the most part, when you're taking over for a team, for the most part, the reason why, one coach goes and you come in is because they're not doing too well. For the most part, every now and then somebody steps down. Maybe, like Vince Lombardi. Yeah, he steps down after the 67 season, after they win the Super Bowl. He just becomes the general manager. So Phil Bankston comes in and is handed basically a Super Bowl team. So, and stuff like that happens. But for the most part, the reason why you're coming in, is because, the team stinks. They need a new coach, and the new coach wants his own players. And, that's what he did. He started, bringing in his own guys that he wants to sink or swim with. Well, I mean, once again, this was not a banner season for the New York Giants. Shea Stadium, had added its own little flavor. I mean, I love watching games in Shea Stadium, especially when it's windy out. It's just, I mean, the dirt infield, and it just, I don't know, a special place to see football. Of course, it wasn't very good for the Giants. Now, the Giants, let's see. They played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So between, for you to do good in your own division, first you got to, do good in your own division. Then you can worry about the rest of the league and all that. But I mean, to do good in your own division, what do you got to do? You got to win games in your own division. And the best place to win games in your own division is at home, right? Makes sense to me. Well, the Giants played 11 between 1973, when they moved to the Yale Bowl after the first 2 weeks of the season at Yankee Stadium. All in 1974 and 1975, the Giants played 11 games against their division opponents. They won 1. So basically, in the Yale Bowl and in Shea Stadium, they never beat the Philadelphia Eagles. They never beat the Dallas Cowboys, and they never beat the Washington Redskins in 3 seasons. They beat 1973. It was the only time. They beat the St. Louis Cardinals at the Yale Bowl in 1973. 1974 and 1975, they did not win a home divisional game. I mean, it was just horrible. 1974, they averaged like 14 points a game. 1975, they averaged 15 points a game. Let me pull this up here. It's here somewhere. I mean, their offense was just, once again, just absolutely just painful. Absolutely painful. All right, so what was it here? They averaged 15 points a game. They gave up 21.9 points per game. Now, I mean, which is, so 22 points a game, which was not, super spectacular. However, it's the theory of everything's relative, right? If your offense is not scoring, if you're not moving the ball, it's 3 and out and all of that, and your defense is on the field, after a while, they're just going to start tiring out. So the offense did not help the defense at all, obviously. The offensive running game was not very good. Their passing game was not very good. Craig Morton, once again, this was his second season. We traded with the Dallas Cowboys to get him. So this was his second season with the Giants. He would play one more season with the Giants, then he would wind up moving on and playing with the Denver Broncos. So the problem, which they went and they traded, they got themselves a nice quarterback. He needed help around him. The Giants had no help around him. The problem was the Giants traded. He played like 3 seasons actually like 2.5 seasons for the Giants. The Giants traded away a first and second round pick to get him, and he only played like 2.5 seasons for the Giants. All right, so wouldn't be until 1975 where they would actually get a long-term answer at the quarterback position. But things started off pretty good for the Giants in 1975. They won 4 consecutive preseason games. They were 4-2. One of their wins was at Princeton's Palmer Stadium against the defending Super Bowl champion, the Pittsburgh Steelers. They won 24-7. Now remember that the game was played on a Saturday, but I remember watching the game. It was pre-recorded, and I watched it on Sunday. The following day, I remember sitting there and watching it. I heard the Giants had won 24-7, and I was like, you beat the defending Super Bowl champions, Pittsburgh Steelers, 24-7. I was like, whoa, maybe we're on to something here. So I remember, because the game was played Saturday during the daytime, so it was pre-recorded when I watched it on Sunday. And it was obviously daytime, and I remember watching it, and I knew what the final score was, and everything. And I was just like, whoa, wow, because at the time that the Giants, their first preseason game, they played the New England Patriots on August 10th. They won 28-14. Then the Giants played on August 16th. They played the San Diego Chargers. They would win 17-7. Then they would play the Jets at the Yale Bowl on August 24th, and they would win 21-20. So they're 3-0. Then they would play the Pittsburgh Steelers on August 30th at Palmer Stadium, Princeton Palmer Stadium. They win 24-7. So now the Giants are 4-0 in preseason. And of course, to me, preseason was almost like an extension of the regular season. I didn't quite understand that it was just preseason, and preseason was a little different and all of that and everything. But to me back then, I'm 11 years old. I wanted us to win all the preseason games. So when we're 4-0, I'm like, oh man, we might be on to something here. Well, then the following week they lost a close one to, which it just goes to show you, right? They played the Cleveland Browns on September 7th, and they lost 24-20. Okay, so close games. They lost to the Browns, but they played them in Seattle, Washington. It's a neutral site. The New York Giants and the Cleveland Browns played in Seattle, Washington, all the way across the country. Not quite sure why, but then the final preseason game was on Saturday, September 13th. They played the Miami Dolphins in the Orange Bowl, Miami, Florida. They lost 31-13. That was Bill Orange Parker's old team. He was the defensive coordinator from the Miami Dolphins. So it was, once again, it was just a preseason game. But regardless, they were 4-2 in the preseason. Not too bad. Things weren't looking too bad, right? So, but they wound up. The Giants went up 5-9. We'll go over their games, game by game. They went up 5-9. But once again, Shea Stadium was not a particularly good place for them. Let's see. They won 2 home games. They won obviously 3 on the road, and they won 2 home games, and not one of the home games was against a divisional opponent. They basically beat some weaker teams, which we'll go over. But one of them was on Monday night. They went into Buffalo and they beat the Bills. The Bills, let's see, hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4. I think the Bills, they were undefeated going. It was only 4-0, but I believe the Bills were 4-0 going to that Monday night game. And the Giants wound up coming out on top. The Giants had not been very good at all on Monday night. As a matter of fact, they were 1-3 going into this game on Monday night. And as a matter of fact, in 1974, the season before, they were not on Monday night because. Now, I'm just speculating here. I don't know this for a fact, but they want to put decent teams on Monday night. Well, in 1973, the Giants lost 40-6, second to last game of the season in 1973. It was just absolute embarrassment, total embarrassment. They looked absolutely horrible. So in 1974, the Giants did not have a Monday night game. So going into 1975, the Giants were 1-3 on Monday nights. And also this would be the final. The Giants would lose a couple more times in the 70s. So the Giants would finish like in the 70s, I think like 2-5 or 2-6 or something like that on Monday nights. Monday nights were not very good to the Giants at all. But 1975, they would come out on top. But let's go over their draft here, shall we? It was not a banner draft for the Giants. One of their later picks, which we're gonna, it's gonna take a little while to get there, but wound up being very, very special for the Giants. Very, very special. But for the most part, it was not a banner draft for the New York Giants. It was their first round pick. Okay. Oh my goodness. This is when they traded away. It's the second overall pick. However, because the year before, right, they were 2-12. So they had the second overall pick. And they traded away to the Dallas Cowboys when they traded for Craig Morton. They traded away their 1975 first round pick, and they traded away their 1976 second round pick to get Craig Morton. So in 1975, they traded away their pick to the Dallas Cowboys, and with that pick, the Dallas Cowboys took future Hall of Fame defensive tackle Randy White. Wound up being a phenomenal pick. Now, that's not to say the Giants would have selected him, because the Giants were not that great at selecting talent. But it just goes to show you the Giants gave up a future Hall of Fame player to get Craig Morton, who only played 2.5 seasons for the Giants. So their first round pick didn't have one. So then we go to their second round pick, and a bit odd, because their first 1974, their two first picks, John Hicks, Tom Mullen, guard. So what did they take in round 2 of the 1975 draft? They took Al Simpson, who was a guard. I'm not sure if he played. Let's see, draftees. I mean, it says he was a guard here. He only played 2 seasons. I mean, so once again, it was not a good pick. He played tackle, and then in 1976, he looks like he played a little left guard. Okay, so he played tackle and guard, but it was just not a good pick. They draft some guy, and he plays 2 seasons for you. So not a banner pick, not a very good pick for the Giants. All right, so we go to round 3 here. It's going to take a little while to get through all these picks here. Round 3. All right, let's see. The Giants got traded away their third round pick. They got Joe Dawkins from the Denver Broncos, and the Broncos took Mike Frankowiak. So they didn't trade away too much. However, Joe Dawkins was not too bad of a player for the Giants. He had the Monday night game. He had a nice game. So I mean, he would, the Giants definitely needed help in the running back position, because they had Doug Coulter, who was not, unbelievably, fantastically great, but he was not horrible either. He needed some help, though. He needed some offensive line help. You can give him a hole, he could gain you some yards. However, the Giants' offensive line was not super spectacular. But, I mean, also Ron Johnson was coming to the end of his career. Ron Johnson would play, I believe 1975 would be his final season with the Giants, because just a knee injury. I think he might have had like an upper leg injury. I mean, he had his injuries were just starting to wear on him. So I believe 1975 was Ron Johnson's final season. So the Giants were just starting to need some help in the running back position. They would get some help, a lot of help in the running back position in 1976, when they would wind up signing Larry Zonka, because Larry Zonka left the Dolphins after 1974. He played in the World Football League for 1 season because of the money. They paid him good money. I mean, back then it was all about money. I mean, he might have been making, I don't know, $50,000 a year, I think they said back then. But the World Football League tried to sign him away for like $1 million or something like that, because they needed players. They needed names to get the league up and running and going, but it never lasted. But so in 1976, the Giants were getting themselves Larry Zonka. So, but anyway, the Giants needed some running back help, and they got in the third round. They traded their third round pick, and they got Joe Dawkins. So, which wasn't too bad, because the Giants got some use out of him. In the fourth round, the Giants took Robert Giblin. Didn't get much out of him. In this round 5, the Giants got Henry Stuckey, from the Dolphins. Now, so they traded away their pick and Morris Owens, the Dolphins wound up picking. So their 5th round pick, they traded away to the Dolphins. They got hit for Henry Stuckey, defensive back, who was the coach, Bill Arnsparger, was familiar with Stuckey at his time with Miami. So he kind of knew what he was getting there. So the Giants traded away their 5th round pick once again to get a veteran player. Now Stuckey did not play very long for the Giants. Let's see here. They don't even had, I'd have to look, but I mean, he didn't want to play very long for the Giants at all. All right, so we got in round 6. Once again, the Giants traded away their 6th round pick. The Colts traded Roy Hilton to the Giants for Joe Orduña, 1975 6th round pick. So the Giants wound up trading away running back Joe Orduña and their 1975 6th round pick, and they got Roy Hilton, who was a defensive lineman from the Colts. So the Giants, once again, the Giants traded away their pick, and they got some help on the defensive line. But once again, Roy Hilton did not play very long for the Giants either. So they were doing a lot of trading, a lot of their picks, and they got players. They got veteran players. They knew what they were getting, but none of these guys played very long for the Giants. All right, round 7, the Giants took Jim Obradovich, a tight end who wound up having a very lengthy career in the NFL, but he only played 1 season with the Giants. He played, I think, until 1983. So he had a nice career. I mean, you played from 75 to 83, I guess like 9 years. I mean, that's a nice career. But as I said, once again, they drafted him. He played 1 season with the Giants, and that was it. So then we have round 8 coming up here. The Giants took John Tate. Didn't get much out of him. I mean, once again, don't forget, we're going into rounds 8 and 9 here. But, we're going to come up with somebody kind of special soon. Round 9, the Giants took Mike Mahoney. Didn't get much out of him. Round 10, the Giants took Terry McLaury. Didn't get much out of him. Once again, we're late rounds here, so don't get me wrong. Here we go. This is the special one. Round 11, pick 262. The 2nd overall pick in the 11th round of the 1975 NFL draft, the Giants selected George Martin, who had a nice long career with the Giants, 1975 to 88. Him and Harry Carson retired after the 88 season, I believe. So the Giants did good with that pick. Very good with that pick. All right, then we're just going to run through the rest of rounds 12. The Giants took Marsh White. I believe he was a running back. Was he a running back? Yeah, he played 2 seasons with the Giants. And that was it. All right, then round 13. Where are we at here? Round 13. Ricky Townsend, they took. You get much out of him. Round 14, the Giants, once again. Let's see. The little flip-flop kind of thing kind of going on here. Giants had pick number 1 in the 14th round. However, the Redskins passed in round 13 at picks 22 through 20 and round 14, allowing the Giants to move up from round 14, pick 1 to round 13, pick 26. And the Colts to move up from round 14, pick 2 to pick 1. So actually, I guess the Giants actually wound up picking, I don't know, in the 13th round somehow. I don't know what it was. It says the Redskins passed. That's a George Allen thing, I guess. Yeah, we're going to pass. We don't want anybody. So anyway, the Giants selected with their Mike Smith. Let me see. Mike Smith. What was Mike Smith? Does it say? Nope, doesn't even say. So, I mean, didn't get much out of Mike Smith. I can guarantee you that. All right, let's see now here. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. The Giants made a trade They traded with the Dolphins. That's what it was. Okay, the Giants selected, and they traded 13th round. The Dolphins traded Ed Jenkins to the Giants for the Giants' 1975 14th overall pick. So that's what it was. The Giants and the Dolphins once again made a trade. The Giants wound up getting Ed Jenkins with their pick. That's what it was. And they didn't get much out of him at all either. So nothing super spectacular there. All right. Then we got round 15. The Giants took Jim O'Connor. Didn't get much out of him. Round 16, the Giants took Jim Mickles. I can assure you didn't get much out of him. And the final round 17, the Giants took Rondy Colbert, who did play two seasons for the Giants? Oh, 3. Defensive back. Was it all 3 with the Giants? I know he played a couple seasons with the Giants. No, it was 2. He played 75 and 76 with the Giants. In 1977, he played 4 games for the St. Louis Cardinals. So it was not a very good draft for the Giants at all for the most part. Nobody for the most part had any type of a long career with the Giants, except for George Martin. George Martin had a nice long career, 1975 to 1988. He wound up playing in 201 games for the Giants. Very, very outstanding pick for the Giants. The Giants started adding some pieces to the puzzle here. 1976, they brought in Troy Archer, who would have been a nice piece for the Giants going forward. However, he passed away after 3 seasons in an automobile accident. But 1976, they would get Harry Carson as well, too. You know what I mean? So they were starting to add some pieces to the puzzle here, especially to the defense. Their offense was still a work in progress. I mean, man, they oh my goodness. It was just painful to watch. Very, very painful. Very manila, very painful. They had super spectacular wide receivers. Nobody really excites you. Their offensive line was not that great. Their running backs, Joe Dawkins and Joe Orduña and Doug Kotar, and it was not good. It was not good at all. All right, so let's go over their games here. Let's go kind of game by game here, and just make sure we remember. Keep in mind, the Giants were not good. All right, let's see here. All right, so the Giants opened up on the road in Philadelphia, and this one you can see this one on YouTube a lot. Well, the highlights. The Giants won in 16-14. There was under a minute to go. Apparently, the Giants had around midfield. Let's see. Hold on. Where did the Giants have the ball at here? Let's see. Where was this touchdown? Yeah, exactly at midfield. There you go. So what it was, the Giants were up 16-14 in Philadelphia at the Veterans Stadium, first game of the season. The Giants are up, and so it's 3rd down and 11. So what do? You kind of go back and forth. It's that old adage. Do you hand the ball off and try to keep the clock going? And I think maybe the Eagles might have had a timeout. Maybe you have them use up a timeout, then punt the ball back to them, and hopefully they don't march down the field and get in field goal range and kick the winning field goal and beat you 17-16. So it's kind of So on 3rd down and 11, Craig Morton drops back the pass, and Ray Rhodes is on the right-hand side. He runs down deep, and apparently Craig Morton said in the locker room after the game was over, he said there was a rookie. I don't know who the rookie was, but he said Ray Rhodes was playing against a rookie over there, and he said he was kind of getting deep on him all game. So Craig Morton dropped back the pass on 3rd down and 11, and instead of maybe running the ball to try to keep the clock going, or maybe to have them use up their last timeout or whatever, or maybe throw an 11-yard pass pattern to get a 1st down, right, to maybe then be able to run the clock out and win the game. No, he throws the bomb, and Ray Rhodes winds up catching it, beats the rookie, whoever the rookie was. I can't remember what number it was, but he caught the pass, ran in for a touchdown. The Giants wound up winning 23-14. So their season started off good. They're on the road. They beat the Eagles on the road. 1-0. Here we go, baby. Woo! No. No. One more time. No. The following week, oh my God. I remember watching this one on TV. This was just unbelievable. Absolutely just unbelievable. There's no one of the reasons why I just totally despise the Redskins. So the second game of the season, the Giants play Washington. They go to play in the Redskins in Washington on Sunday, September 28th, and they would lose 49-13. I mean, it was just a total beatdown. The Giants had 161 yards of offense. The Redskins had 417 yards of offense. I mean, it was just horrible. Horrible, absolutely horrible. So then the next week, the Giants would go on the road on Sunday, October 5th. Because remember, they started the season 3 games on the road. Remember, they're sharing the stadium, the Shea Stadium, with the New York Jets. So, the Jets were home, the Giants were on the road, right? So the Giants, the third game of the season, they go on the road. They play the Cardinals, and they wound up losing 26-14. Now, let's make no bones about it. Back then, the Cardinals were good. Cardinals didn't have the greatest offense in the world. I'm sorry, my bad. Didn't have the greatest defense in the world, but they had a good offense. Their offensive line was phenomenal, really, really good. They had a good running game. Hart, the quarterback, was very, very good, and they had some good receivers too. So their offense was very, very good. Their defense wasn't too good, but usually they can outscore their opponents. Well, so in the third game of the season, the Giants played the Cardinals in St. Louis. They lost 26-14. I mean, the Cardinals had 254 yards rushing. Their offensive line was really good. Giants couldn't stop the run. So now the Giants lost 26-14. Now they're 1-2. Then finally, the first game of the season at home in Shea Stadium was on Sunday, October 12th. The Dallas Cowboys came to town. The Giants were winning 7-3, I think it was, in this one. Let's take a look here. 7-3. Yeah, the Giants were winning 7-3. Doug Kotar had a 5-yard touchdown run. He ran around the left end and just snuck into the end zone. So the Giants were up 7-3 in the third quarter. Well, then the Cowboys kicked a field goal to make it 7-6, and then Gene Fugit caught a 4-yard touchdown pass in the fourth quarter from Roger Staubach, and the Cowboys wound up winning 13-7. I mean, the defense was playing its heart out. But, I mean, the Giants' offense had 173 yards of total offense. I mean, they had 96 yards rushing. They had 99 yards passing. But after their sacks, they had 77 total yards of passing. I mean, it's just horrible. Absolutely horrible. They had 3 interceptions, which cost them dearly. They had 5 turnovers in the game, which cost them dearly. I mean, the Giants, Roger Staubach, the future Hall of Fame quarterback, was only 8 out of 22 for 87 yards passing. Yeah, I mean, it's just really bad. I mean, just the Giants' offense was just absolutely horrible. A lot of times the Giants' offense did not help the defense out at all. So then we come to week 5, Monday night, October 20th in Buffalo. I mean, the Buffalo comes in 4-0. The Giants are 1-3. I mean, it looks like it's going to be a runaway. Buffalo actually goes up 14-0 early on in this game. O.J. Simpson has 126 yards rushing during the game. But the Giants, to their credit, they scored a touchdown to make it 14-7. They scored another touchdown to make it 14-14. And then they got the ball back, and they started driving down the field. And with about, I'm going to say, 10 seconds to go in the game, I think it was, George Hunt, I think might be the last straight-on kicker the Giants had. Because remember, Pete Gogolak, excuse me, the reports he retired after the 1974 season. Well, I'm having a little problem with that one, because as a 1975 preseason game, if you ever see on the first preseason game of the 1975 season. Pete Gogolak's in there kicking off. So he retired. I don't know what happened somewhere in 1975, in the preseason. I don't know if he just decided to retire or Orange Parker didn't want him back, or so. I'm not exactly sure. But Pete Gogolak's final season was where he actually had some stats, was 1974. He did play in the 1975 preseason. So, but anyway, Bill Arnsparger had to talk George Hunt out of retirement somehow. and he was a straight on kicker, and he was only 6 out of 11 for the season. So that just goes to show you how ungodly, unbelievably, horribly pathetic the Giants offense was. I mean, was he 6 out of 11? Yeah, the Giants only attempted 11 field goals all season long. They only made 6 field goals all year long. George Hunt was 54.5%. He kicked 24 out of 29 extra points. So he missed 5 extra points. But he kicked straight on. He was a straight on kicker. And somehow they had to talk him out of retirement to play, I think, this one last season. Let's see, George Hunt. And he only played one season with the Giants, because in 1976, the Giants got Joe Danilo. Okay, George Hunt played 1973 with the Colts. So, but I don't know. But George Hunt wound up kicking a field goal with about 3 seconds left, or 5 seconds or so, whatever, left in the game, and the Giants wound up beating Buffalo on Monday night. I mean, it wound up being a huge win. They wound up winning 17-14. So then the Giants are 2-3, right? The following week, the St. Louis Cardinals came to town, and once again, the Giants at home could not beat a divisional opponent. The Cardinals would win 20-13. The biggest thing out of this one was the fact that the Giants sacked Jim Hart. It was the first sack that the Cardinals. It was what, week 6? Week 6. Just going to show you how good their offensive line was. It took to week 6, and I think the Giants just sacked them one time before Jim Hart, the St. Louis Cardinals quarterback, got sacked for the first time all season. It was in week 6, and the Giants only got. So after 6 weeks of the season, their quarterback was sacked one time. So, but I mean, in this game, the Giants had 4 turnovers, which cost them dearly. The Cardinals had no turnovers. The Cardinals wound up winning 20-13. The Giants basically just shot themselves in the foot. Yeah. So the Giants lost 20-13. So now they're 2-4. The following week, the San Diego Chargers, who were not good at all, came to town on Saturday, Saturday, November 1st, maybe quite possibly because maybe the Jets had to play on Sunday. I'm not sure, but it says here Saturday, November 1st. In Shea Stadium, the Giants would beat the Chargers 35-24. Now the Giants are 3-4. And halfway through the season, they're only one game under 500. All right, it's not bad. But it was, once again, not meant to be. 1, 2, 3, 4. They would lose their next 5 games. So the Washington Redskins would come to town the following week, Sunday, November 9th. The Giants would lose 21-13. Once again, they lost at home to a divisional opponent. For whatever reason, they could never beat the Eagles at home. The Giants beat the Eagles 62-10 in 1972. And from 1973 into the 80s, took the Giants into the 80s before they would beat the Eagles at home. I have no idea. And they just could not beat the Eagles at home. Unbelievable. Every year, the Eagles came into New York and beat the Giants. Unbelievable. This was no exception. The Eagles won 13-10, right, on Sunday, November 16th at Shea Stadium, 13-10. Now the Giants are 3-6. Then the Giants would get annihilated by the Green Bay Packers the following week. Sunday, November 23rd, the Giants would go to play the Packers in Green Bay, and they would lose 40-14. Wow. Packers had 500. I mean, the Packers were not a very good team back then. Packers had 508 yards of offense. 500. I mean, That's atrocious, absolutely atrocious. So the Giants lost 40-14 to the Packers. Now the Giants are 3-7. The following week, the Giants would stay on the road on Sunday, November 30th. They would go in Dallas, and they would lose 14-3. Once again, the Giants had no offense whatsoever. The Giants had 158 yards of total offense. They had 74 yards rushing, 84 yards passing, 11 first downs. And all they could have managed was a field goal. They lost 14-13. Just absolutely atrocious. Absolutely atrocious. No offense whatsoever. The following week, it got even worse. At home, the Baltimore Colts came to town. So on Sunday, December 7th at Shea Stadium, the Giants lost 21-0 to the Colts. The first play, I believe, of the game, I think Craig Morton, I think, tossed the ball to Doug Kotar. He fumbled the pitch. Of course, the fumble. Of course, the Colts recovered it, and a few plays later, boom, touchdown, 7-0. It was just not. Actually, I think it was the game of the week somehow. I'm not exactly sure how a 21-0 game could be a game of the week, but it was. The Giants just what do they have there? Had 226 yards of offense. I mean, they had 4 turnovers, which just cost them dearly. There was another scoring drive that the Colts had. It was, I believe it was like 3rd down or so. Colts had the ball like around midfield or so, somewhere around there. I'm pretty sure it's 3rd down. Well, the quarterback, Burt Jones, drops back to pass, throws the ball to the sideline, and it winds up being, I think, incomplete. I think whoever it was caught the ball, but he was out of bounds or something like that. He caught it and lands out of bounds. Well, as he lands out of bounds, I think it was Pat Hughes. It was either Kelly or Hughes. I think it might have been Hughes. Piles on him. After he's out of bounds for a second or so, he winds up landing on him, and they throw a flag, 15 yards. They gives the Colts the first down, and after that, they march in and they score another touchdown. I mean, so just self-inflicted, the first fumble of the first play of the game, they fumble it and the Colts recover it. Self-inflicted wound. Then the penalty to keep their drive going alive to give them another touchdown. And then it was Chiansky, and just goes to show you every one of their touchdowns, they lost 21-0 to the Colts. Everyone was self-inflicted. There's one interception run back. Stan White wasn't Chiansky. Stan White picked off a pass from Craig Morton, ran it back 23 yards for a touchdown. So Lydell Mitchell scored the first touchdown in the game, which came almost directly right off of the Doug Kotar fumble from the first play from scrimmage. So Lydell Mitchell, a couple plays later, scores a touchdown. Then Stan White picks a pass off, runs it back 23-0. And then Bill Olds scores a touchdown after that penalty by Pat Hughes, I believe it was, the linebacker. It was either Kelly or Hughes piled on the Colts receiver who was out of bounds. 15-yard penalty, first down for the Colts. They marched like another 35 yards or so, score another touchdown. It's 21-0 at halftime. Nobody scores in the second half. So, I mean, once again, the Giants' offense was absolutely just unbelievable. I know Morton got sacked quite a few times in this. Where did he get sacked there? Yeah, he got sacked 8 times. He had 195 yards passing, but he got sacked 8 times. They lost 62 yards on sacks. He got sacked 8 times. They were 12 out of 28. They had 3 interceptions. I mean, just unbelievable. Just painful offense. So they lost 21-0. So then, I mean, now they're 3-9. Thankfully, I guess the football gods wanted to look down on the Giants and have them end up on a bright note. Well, so thankfully the New Orleans Saints, they stink a lot. Saints came to town, and the Giants would win 28-14. This was at Shea Stadium. That was the final game the Giants played at Shea Stadium. They won 28-14. So now the Giants are 4-9. The final game of the season, they would go on the road. They would play Sunday, December 21st in San Francisco, and they would beat the 49ers 26-23. So they finished 5-9. But this would be the last full season for the coach, Bill Arnsparger, because after 1975, the Giants were finally just waiting for their new Giant Stadium to open up, which would open up in 1976. It would take a couple of weeks. Let me hold on, I can figure this out here. Next season, let's go here, 1976. The Giants were on the road for the first, like, at least 3 games, was it? 4 games. The first 4 games of the season, the Giants were on the road. Well, I guess the new Giant Stadium was being finished, I guess. It wasn't until October 10th of the following season when the Giants finally played their first home game at Giant Stadium. But anyway, this would be their last, season as like nomads, where they win Yale Bowl and they go to Shea Stadium and all that. So they finally got to play a game at their own stadium in 1976. Well, this 1975 would also be the final full season for Bill Arnsparger because, he just wasn't a good coach. And the Giants would start the 1976 season 0-7. After they lost 27-0 at home to Pittsburgh Steelers, which we're going to go over tomorrow. In the 1976 season, the Giants had enough, and Bill Arnsparger was out of there. So they started 0-7. They brought John McVay in, and he finished the season for the Giants. But that was 1976. So this is 1975. So the Giants wound up 5-9. So it was just their offense was just ungodly horrible. Their offense did not help out their defense at all. A couple of the games, the Giants gave up a ton of points. It was just not good. Not good. Bill Arnsparger was not a good head coach. He was not the answer. The Giants, were in the midst of a lot of coaches that were not good. Ali Sherman was not a phenomenal coach. Alex Webster was not a phenomenal coach. Bill Arnsparger was not a phenomenal coach. John McVay, who's the next coach going to be, not a phenomenal coach. So the Giants were the wilderness years, lost. Not good drafts, not good players, not good coaches, not good teams, not good seasons, just lost. So 1975 was another one of those seasons, the lost season. So let me just wrap this up here. Let's go over the why not be a nice Super Bowl? Why not be a decent Super Bowl here? Let me find the. I'll go over the divisions and all that stuff. If I got 3,000 tabs open up here. There we go. All right, we're here. All right, now in the AFC, the Baltimore Colts wound up winning. They won that. They were 10-4, and so were the Dolphins were 10-4. But the Colts wound up winning a tiebreaker. So the Colts wound up winning the AFC East with a record of 10-4. What we got in the AFC Central, the Steelers were 12-2. They won that division. The Bengals were 11-3, so they were the wild card team. In the AFC West, the Oakland Raiders won that division with a record of 11-3. So we got here. Now that we got the playoffs. So in the playoffs, the AFC playoffs, the Oakland Raiders beat the Cincinnati Bengals 31-28. The Pittsburgh Steelers would beat the Baltimore Colts 28-10, which set up a championship game, 1975 championship game in Three Rivers Stadium. The field was absolutely freaking frozen. Absolutely. Actually, they had, I believe, the way the tarp was set up or pulled off the field or whatever it was on the outside. It was frozen, absolutely frozen, which really hurt hurt the Steelers. But the Steelers like to run the ball, as Al Davis said of the Oakland Raiders. We like the deep ball. So the outside with Cliff Branch and Blitnikov or whatever could run deep. That was kind of taken away because it was an ice skating rink out there. You couldn't run. Actually, the whole field was pretty frozen. It was really pretty. It was a tough. Oh my God, I couldn't imagine getting tackled on that field. But the Steelers would wind up winning 16-10, sending them back to the Super Bowl for the second consecutive season. Then in the NFC, the St. Louis Cardinals would wind up winning the division, the record of 11-3. The Cowboys were 10-4. So they were the wild card team. The Minnesota Vikings won the NFC Central with a record of 12-2. And in the NFC West, the Rams win with a record of 12-2. So in the playoffs, the Vikings would lose to the Cowboys on the Hail Mary pass. Roger Staubach and Drew Pearson on the Hail Mary pass. The Vikings were up 14-10. Actually, just prior to that, the Cowboys, I think, had like a 4th and, I forgot, it was 17 or 4th and 18 or something like that. And Roger Staubach completed a pass on the sideline. I don't know if it was to Drew Pearson as well, too, but just completed a pass on 4th and like 18 to keep the drive alive. So then right around midfield, it wasn't 4th down, I don't think it was, but Roger Staubach dropped back the pass. They were running out of time. There wasn't a lot of time left. I think it was under a minute to go in the game, and they had to score a touchdown. So Roger Staubach said he just dropped back the pass. He threw the ball, and he said a Hail Mary after he got done throwing the ball, and it came to fruition. They scored a touchdown. Sure looked like I think it was Drew Pearson. Of course, it looked like he pushed off to but penalty flag was called, but I think for somehow, I don't know how or why it was called on the Vikings. Looked like it should have been called on the Cowboys, but it is what it is. Then in the Rams in their division, their playoff game, they beat the Cardinals 35-23. So it set up the championship game. The NFC championship game setup was in Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum. The Cowboys would win 37-7 over the Rams. They said the Rams had, from 1973 to 78, the Rams went to the playoffs every year. They won the division every year. What was it, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77? 6 straight years they would win the division. Every one of those seasons, they either lost to the Cowboys or to the Vikings in the playoffs. They couldn't get past those two teams. Finally, in 1979, the Rams would wind up beating the Cowboys in the divisional round. Then they would beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the championship game 9-0 to go to the Super Bowl, the Rams. But it took the Rams a long time to finally beat either the Cowboys or the Vikings in the playoffs. And this was not one of those seasons. They lost 37-7 in the championship game, which set up the Super Bowl between the Cowboys and the Steelers. Which wound up being, I'll tell you what, Lynn Swann hit some of the receptions he made in this game were just unbelievable. The Steelers would wind up winning 21-17. Let's see. At halftime, it was 10-7. The Cowboys were winning 10-7 at halftime. Then there was no scoring in the third quarter. Then all the scoring came in the fourth quarter. Mitch Hoops blocked a punt, which kind of turned the whole game around for the Steelers. He blocked a punt. And, Mitch Hoops' punt blocked through the end zone by Reggie Harrison. So Reggie Harrison blocked the punt. The ball went out of the end zone, but he gave the Steelers a safety. So now the Steelers are up 10-9. Then the Cowboys got to kick the ball back to the Steelers. And things started changing right around that. That block punt wound up being huge in this game. Because then Roy Girella kicked a 36-yard field goal to put the Steelers up 12-10. Then Roy Girella hit an 18-yard field goal to put the Steelers up 15-10. Then Lynn Swann kicked caught a 64-yard touchdown pass from Bradshaw. And the extra, Roy Girella's extra point was no good. Hit the left upright. So the Steelers were up 21-10. So finally, with 1:48 left to go in the game, the Percy Howard, I think he caught one pass all season. I think this was it. Caught a 34-yard touchdown reception from Roger Staubach. Tony Frisch's extra point made it good, so it was made it 21-17, but it was not meant to be. The Steelers wound up getting the ball. I believe they just ran the clock out, and the game wound up being over. But it was 21-17, but it was a very, very exciting Super Bowl. If you ever get a chance to watch it or so, like maybe on YouTube or whatever, do yourself a favor. It wound up being a very, very exciting game. But I said Lynn Swann, 2 of the catches he made were just unbelievable. One of them was Terry Bradshaw dropped back and just heaved it. The Steelers were in their own territory, deep in their own territory. Bradshaw drops back, heaves it downfield. Lynn Swann's like running down the center of the field. I mean, he's got a guy, I don't know, it was Washington. I forgot who the guy was like all on top of him. But Lynn Swann, like, he's like falling. He hits the ball up in the air. He juggles it, and he's like landing to the ground. He comes down with it. Just a phenomenal catch. Unbelievable. Then there was another one. I don't remember if it was earlier on or later on or what it was, but the ball is thrown out and by the sideline. Somehow Lynn Swann, like somehow, I don't know, he's like out of bounds. He winds up catching it, and he winds, getting his 2 feet in bounds. It's just unbelievable what he was able to do. The 2 catches he made in that game were just, and then that would then include the last touchdown reception, the 64-yarder, which basically sealed the game for him. But the one on the outside where he basically was out of bounds, and he came back in somehow with get his feet in. I mean, it's just simply amazing. If you ever get a chance, it's a nice, good Super Bowl. Kind of tough to watch the Steelers and the Cowboys, but it would wind up being a good Super Bowl. But those 2 catches alone by Lynn Swann were just worth the price of admission. But that pretty much wraps up the 1975 season for the New York Giants. They finished 5-9. This would be the last full season. Bill Arnsparger would be the Giants head coach. He would coach for 7 games in the 76 season, and then he would get after the Giants would start 0-7. But this was also the last season the Giants would be nomads on the road, where they basically didn't have a home. So in 1976, Giant Stadium would open up, and the Giants would have their own home for many, many years to come. So 1959 was not another good season for the Giants. Another year, another losing season. 1976, hard to believe, but 1976 would actually would be worse. Oh man, this is why I'm scarred today. Scarred to this moment and for the rest of my life. However long I'm allowed to be live on this earth. This is why I'm still scarred. This crap from the 70s. It was just unbelievable, just painful football. So, the 1975 season be not very, very good to the New York Giants. They finished 5-9. So, I'll be back again tomorrow with the 1976 season for the New York Giants, which just happened to be the 52nd season in the history of the New York Giants. I'll see you then.